And we're back with more PodFest Asia, presenting the CMO Asia podcast. And this is a Friday morning, and it's almost 9:35 a.m. I'm super honored because my next guest, her name is Julia. She'll be coming on and hitting our stage shortly. And here's a little bit of introduction for our special guest for the day. As part of our network of PodFest Asia podcasts, live taping shows on LinkedIn and everywhere else, we are going to be spotlighting women leaders, women in marketing, advertising, publishing platforms, and agencies. So I will have the pleasure of interviewing Julia Clyne, the head of media and the trust Asia Pacific at Dow Jones. She leads Dow Jones media sales operations across the Asia Pacific region with teams that are based in Hong Kong, Singapore, China, South Korea, and Japan. Her role involves managing cross-departmental functions, including sales and marketing and creative operations of Dow Jones' in-house creative consultancy, The Trust, as well as setting strategic priorities in order to establish partnership-oriented solutions for clients. So why you should listen to this episode? Because the first-party data revolution is underway, and Google's decision to remove third-party cookies from Chrome by 2023 will have profound structural impacts on the advertising and marketing industries. If, as an organization, you're relying on third-party data to drive marketing, innovation, and advertising efforts, there is a cliff edge approaching. So Julia, head of media and the trust at Dow Jones, is on hand to provide our listeners an overview of what these big changes could mean for publishers, platforms, agencies, and marketers. Without further ado, let's bring Julia to our virtual podcasting stage. How are you, my friend?
Hi, Wayne. I'm really well. It's great to be here on this cheerful Friday morning, and wonderful to hear about your initiative to profile women leaders on this platform from across the region. It sounds like a great endeavor.
It's a huge honor, to always have all these great women leaders like yourself coming onto the show. And I'm super excited because you're here to provide us a lot of value as usual. And I think let's get cracking with our first question for this fantastic Friday morning. Maybe tell us, why should organizations be worried about this removal of third-party cookies?
You're right, Wayne, to say organizations as opposed to just marketers, publishers, agencies, because this change affects all players sort of across the online ecosystem. Third-party cookies have been around since 1994, and they've really formed the bedrock of how most companies have set up their online businesses. And so the removal of them is indeed going to cause a huge change, a transformation for all businesses who operate online. For marketers specifically, why this is going to really affect how they operate, it comes down to sort of five key areas, and these are all very important. The first is that third-party cookies have allowed marketers to identify individual users as they navigate across the internet. Third-party cookies have also allowed them to target and then retarget those individuals with advertising as they go across the internet. They've also allowed marketers to personalize those ads for individuals. So as opposed to having the same ad that both you and I see, marketers have had the great advantage of understanding what is relevant to each of us and to personalizing ads specifically based on those interests. Third-party cookies have also allowed marketers to create really rich profiles of individuals using data from many different sources to create a profile for you or myself within their data management platforms, so that, again, they can personalize those marketing messages. And then I'd say one of the biggest advantages of third-party cookies has been that marketers have been able to measure the effectiveness of their media spend. So they can track how, say, you respond or behave after you've seen an ad from them, whether you've gone on to make a purchase or to download a white paper, and then they can measure whether or not how they're spending their marketing money is effective or not and make changes based upon that. And I think the real reason that this is has been incredibly effective for marketers is because they've been able to do these things at scale, so at enormous scale across the internet. And why there is, I guess, a bit of concern is because once I think marketers found out that third-party cookies would no longer be available as they have been, there hasn't really been a solution that's been proposed that will replace their capabilities to the full extent that they've been utilized by marketers. There are many different proposals as to how marketers can operate in a cookieless future, but nothing yet has sort of been deemed as effective as third-party cookies in terms of being able to do exactly what they've been doing sort of for the past many decades. So what marketers are perhaps concerned about is that they won't be able to track someone across the internet after they have seen an ad, and therefore measure whether or not their ad spend is effective or not. They won't be able to personalize. This is, I guess, their concern at this stage. They won't potentially be able to personalize messages in the ways that they have before, and to target individuals as they go across the internet.
I think you have broke this down really fantastically well for us. And, while you were breaking that down, right, I was showing off and screen sharing this particular Marketoonist, Tom Fishburne, recent published comic strip that really caught many marketers' eyes, especially on LinkedIn. I think it went viral as well. Do you think this is really spot on when it comes to describing, first party, second party, third party data as well as cookies?
I'm trying to read the small print on my side. The gym shoes you have used are on sale. Yes, I would say so. From what I can read with my diminishing sort of site quality, yes, I think that this is well reflecting perhaps how people feel right now about the different types of data that are available and will be available.
So sorry to throw you a curveball by showing you something that with really fine print, but that is definitely another way to express, the terminology and how all this definition means, right? And of course, we want to really pick your brains on this specific realm and this change in paradigm, especially when it comes to all these first and third party cookies. Tell us, can you talk maybe about the benefits for businesses that are embracing first party data led approaches and solutions?
Absolutely. I think the benefits that first-party data solutions provide are clear. It's just that actually being able to capture that data and utilize that data will require a pivot for many organizations. But I have to say, from what I'm seeing across the industry in Asia, and particularly with our B2B clients, this transformation is well underway. But in terms of what the benefits that first-party data provides businesses is that, number one, it's incredibly precise. So if an organization is capturing their own first-party data, they can rely on the integrity and quality of that data because they have captured it, and it's at that sort of direct level of quality that they've been able to capture. And the second benefit of first-party data is that it allows organizations to generate a much richer understanding of customers, audiences, consumers, clients, etc., way beyond what you may be able to capture if you're relying solely on third-party sources. So that level of understanding between your organization and the customers or clients that you serve deepens as you capture more and more first-party data. The third benefit is that because data that is at that first-party level is being captured in real time, it allows organizations to make decisions based upon what's happening today and what they predict to happen tomorrow based upon that first-party data. And we've seen the benefits of that, particularly during this pandemic, where the landscape for marketers changed rapidly, and they had to pivot their strategy sometimes within a matter of hours. And a lot of that was really made possible because of first-party data. And then I think the fourth benefit is that data is proprietary. It's exclusive to one's organization, and therefore, and depending on how that company looks at their data, maybe they do actually sell that data, but a lot of organizations will be using that data exclusively for themselves. And so the insight that they have into customers and clients is proprietary, and that can absolutely provide them an edge in the market.
Very well said. And you mentioned about challenges faced by marketers, and there are so many, right? And I think in terms of like even how marketers are thinking, in terms of like in 3D or like entering the metaverse, that's just one of tons of challenges that they face on a daily basis. And we definitely don't want to go into that, arena and talk about a metaverse today. For the benefit of our listeners who are tuning in, just to maybe learn more about these upcoming changes, could you maybe talk a bit about what these upcoming changes actually mean for these marketers?
Absolutely. I think the changes that we have seen really kind of fall into a few areas. The first is that in order to prepare for this revolution, and this, I don't think it can be overstated how big this change will be, and that companies will be investing in areas that perhaps they haven't invested before. And the first area that we've really seen our clients and other organizations and also ourselves invest is in the data infrastructure, or technology infrastructure that companies use to house their data. So we're a good case study for that. Dow Jones has undergone what we've called a data transformation for over the past 5 years. And what that really entailed was us setting up what we called a customer data platform, or a CDP. And that's where we put all of the raw data that we have, the first party data on our content, but also our audiences. And that has been a quite a sizable investment, but that's critical to sort of undergo that process of looking at your technology infrastructure so that you can set yourselves up for, or set oneself up for the future and create products and solutions based upon that. And that's a shift away from, say, the data management platforms that have been used in the past, which have utilized third-party cookie data. So that's the first change, and that's kind of like setting an organization up for success. But I'd say the biggest change, and this is probably the biggest challenge, but also the most exciting opportunity, is the re-evaluation of an organization's value proposition to its customers. So in order to capture first-party data, a lot of organizations will want to attract customers, clients, audiences to their online properties. And many organizations previously didn't need to do that, particularly those in the perhaps FMCG industry. There wasn't really a need to do that. And to market, those organizations may have really exclusively relied on third-party data to do their marketing activities. So what marketers will start to think about is, what's the value that I can offer my customers in order to bring them to my properties frequently so that I can learn more about them through the data that I can capture with their consent. And that's obviously the most crucial part of this whole change. The third area I think where marketers will start to think about is the partners that they want to work with as they look to the future. So they'll think about the publishers who have really strong relationships with niche audiences that are valuable to them. So for example, B2B organizations that we work with may really start to sort of think, okay, what makes the Wall Street Journal audience unique, and why is it that I particularly want to get in front of that audience, and what are other publishers who also reach that audience in a very sort of kind of strong and kind of obvious way. So I think marketers will really start to look at who those publishers are that can help them reach those audiences utilizing those publishers' first-party data. But then also, of course, marketers will really start to think about the walled gardens that they've obviously been very kind of connected to and working closely with for some time. Google won't be able to offer the individual level tracking and attribution that they have in the past, but they house so much rich first-party data that they will still offer targeting capabilities, but not at an individual level any longer. However, marketers will look to Google for the solutions that they will be able to provide. They will just be different. And then thirdly, I think marketers will consider some of what we call universal ID or other kind of alternatives to, the individual tracking solutions that we've been used to through third-party cookies. The concern, though, is that some of those solutions may not pass regulators' concerns around the privacy, implications of them. So that's something that we're watching closely, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
This is really insightful. I think you have really helped us to break down in terms of how these upcoming changes really mean for marketers who are listening to this podcast. So, there's this saying that the data is the new oil, right? I think I've been hearing this saying for around a decade or more already. So perhaps, this next sentence is something that is more refreshing to hear. Publishers being the 21st century oil barons. Do you think that this is true? And in your opinion as well, are publishers really, 100% the 21st century oil barons?
I like that sentence. I think it depends, Wayne. There are many publishers who haven't, through their business models, needed to set up a daily habit or a weekly habit even with their audiences. Perhaps they've been using platforms to reach audiences, to generate advertising revenue, and they haven't needed to draw people back to their properties on a regular basis, and therefore they haven't perhaps captured that first-party data on individuals that other publishers have captured. Actually, the INMA did a survey recently, and their members are publishers, and only 13% of their members said that they felt very well prepared for the cookieless future. So I think that for publishers, there is also this reckoning and need to set up that value proposition and that technology infrastructure. But if publishers have gone through that process or are going through that process, you're right, Wayne, they can be considered as perhaps the 21st century oil barons, because if they get that right, they may be able to attract people every day to their properties, and therefore be able to offer to advertisers very rich understanding of audiences who come to them and build products that serve those advertisers. So, for example, the Wall Street Journal, we have had a paywall across our site since 1996, so 2 years after third-party cookies were invented. And so we've been capturing declared data on our audience since that time, but also been working really hard to set up a value proposition that means that our audiences value our content so much that they come to it every day, but also that they pay for it. And so because we have that rich first-party data, we've been able to offer ad products that are very robust and that will survive past this revolution, such as contextual targeting capabilities, where we've seen 2 times the performance versus just average, say, click-through rates across our site. We have audience segments that are exclusively based on first-party data, so that don't rely on third-party data at all, to be able to help marketers reach very niche audiences across the world. We've also been working with partners to help marketers attribute at the individual level when those marketers have their own first-party data that matches with our first-party data, and that's something that Google will allow when they make these changes. And then I think the other area that publishers will be able to serve marketers in this new world is by being sort of more strategic partners or consultants who have this first-party data that gives them insights into consumer behavior or audience behavior that they can't get from anywhere else, and therefore will be able to advise them on things that perhaps those marketers wouldn't otherwise have known unless they'd had that publisher relationship.
This has been a really educational session for the past 21 minutes or so. I think you have not just educated us on the upcoming challenges, but you have also, in a way, helped us to explain how to actually do marketing reinvention and working around all these challenges, which means making marketers feel comfortable in these new challenges and the workaround solutions. I think you have provided more than quite a few today. So thank you so much for joining us today, Julia. And maybe to learn more about you, I will urge our listeners to go check out our show notes after we publish this podcast, and to basically hit you up on LinkedIn as well. So if they have more further questions, they could always connect with you. So you've been listening to the CMO Asia podcast presented by PodFest Asia. This episode is hosted and produced by me, Wayne Chong, and with Julia Clyne. Thank you so much for spending your Friday morning with us. So I look forward to have you back on next time to maybe give us more updates on some of the challenges that marketers would face in the future.
Thanks so much, Wayne. It's been really fun.
Thank you so much. Goodbye. Have a nice weekend.
Bye-bye. You too.
Cheers. That's Julia Clyne, and she's the one of the guests, that probably provided so much insights, in just a short 20-minute session. I wish we had more time so that we could even maybe spend the next 15 or 20 more minutes and to talk about more marketing reinvention, especially when it comes to marketing having to think in 3D and entering the metaverse. That's probably a topic that we'll cover in other shows that we have on our PodFest Asia network. So with that, I'm going to take a break. We'll be back this afternoon with more podcasts, with more special guests from the other realm in the music world, where they'll be talking about music and maybe a little bit about NFTs. So with that, I'm going to take a break. I'll be back in the afternoon. See you guys.